What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we are going to be heading off to a secret Ranchu breeder. Now unfortunately I cannot name them or share their location as they do want to remain anonymous, but we're going to be seeing some very top quality show winning top view Ranchu, and I'm super excited to see them. So without further ado, I'm going to head to the breeder now, get some footage, and let's check out some amazing fish. You may recognize this breeder. We have actually been here before, but it was probably around a year ago, maybe even a little bit longer. You can see we have a huge amount of different tanks, different style setups. Some of you may say it is a mess. However, I would say it's more organized chaos. This fish room has a huge amount of different tanks. We have baby tanks, fry tanks, we have the adult pond as you can see here. There are rearing tanks, we also have tanks for Nissai or 2-year-old fish as well, and everything in this setup or this fish house has a meaning and has a value. So it may look a little bit messy, but believe me, the mess is irrelevant when you see the absolute sheer quality of fish this breeder has to offer. Now, first up, we're going to have a look at some of the baby fish that have been produced this year. And this breeder in particular grows these fish extremely fast, and he does an absolutely great job at it. So on the screen now, you can see the parent fish, otherwise known as oyagoi in Japanese. And these are the fish that have provided his fry and his young this year. Now we've got a few fry bowled up. These were around the 2 centimeter range, and you can see that they haven't yet developed their color. Now these fish are still very young, and the breeder said he looks to grow them on very quickly, and he does quite a severe culling to make sure that the fish don't have any deformities and they aren't taking up valuable space for the fish that are perfectly formed. Now here we were having a little look at the caudal fin, and essentially we're looking for a nice split between the tail. There are essentially one big fin at the back of the fish, and this is divided into 2 halves. Now either side should be at a 90-degree angle from the caudal peduncle or the end of the body of the fish. We should have a nice split down the center. Some of the fins you may see are slightly overlapping each other in that center range, and these fish are not going to win any shows, and they are not going to be grown on or kept on, and these will actually unfortunately be culled. However, we do have a huge amount of baby fry, especially from these Ranchu breedings, so severe culling is very important to prevent bad lines being developed and poor runts and poor quality fish from being placed into other hobbyists' hands and providing poor bloodlines for future growing. Now here are some even smaller Ranchu. These were absolutely tiny. I would say these were about 1 to 1.2 centimeters in length, and I believe these were around 4 to 5 weeks old, something like that. You can see there are not many in this tank, and that is because they have been carefully selected and the culls removed, or their culling has occurred and they have removed all of those runts and fish that didn't quite meet the standard. Now you will notice in the fry tanks there are lots of sponge filters or air driven sponge filters, and that is the sole filtration that is used on these fry tanks. Alternatively, they do not use any sponge filters and they do water changes every 5 to 6 days, and that would be a 100% water change. You can see the fry here are enjoying what looks to be big chunk of rapashi, but this is actually a really small chunk of rapashi gel food, and the fry were absolutely feasting on these. You can see they've got a sort of greenish tint to the top of the fish, and I wonder if that is from consuming lots of rapashi. But rapashi is really full of lots of goodness, has lots of nutrients in for the fish to grow, and they have been growing really well on this food. There's around 20 fry, and normally the breeder keeps around 20 to 30 fry per vat or per container. Now in this fry container, you can see the water is quite clouded, and this isn't detritus, this is actually brine shrimp. Now this is brine shrimp nauplii and brine shrimp eggs that have been recently hatched. Now the breeder has 1 bottle of brine shrimp on the go every single day for approximately the first 4 to 5 weeks of raising their fish. They also have Daphnia cultures as well, and as you saw, they feed the rapashi and also chopped up bloodworm. You may see the odd bloodworm still floating around in this tank. You can feed bloodworm to young fish, but it is often quite good to chop it up into small pieces so they can get that high protein diet from a young age, but it is not too big a mouthful for them to consume. Now you may notice there is not a huge amount of fry in total in the video. I would say this breeder has around 50 to 60 fry of this year's that have made it through the selection process. And here are a couple of Nissai or 2-year-old fish that have made it from previous years and are just being kept in a glass tank inside so you can appreciate them from the side view. Now these fish definitely do best from the top view, but it is also nice to see them from the side view and see how the tails move at the end of the fish and how they are angular in proportion to the body, and also have a look at that back curve and how it really differentiates from that Thai or Chinese style Ranchu. These are a lot flatter fish, similar to lionheads, and they don't quite have the curvature in the spine that a Thai or Chinese Ranchu would have. So now we've had a look at those fry, we've also had a brief look at some of the Nissai or 2-year-old fish. Now we are in the Oyagoi pond or the parent pond. Now here is a quick underwater video that I took. We were giving the fish some small granular pellets, and there are some absolutely stunning fish in this pond. Now there are a mix of plants in here as well. We also have air stones. There was a trickle filter, I believe a sponge filter, and also a large bead filter running this big pond. Now I believe this pond holds around 800 to 1,000 litres. It is around 25 to 30 centimetres in depth, and it is definitely overkill on the filtration. I believe the bead filter alone on this tank or pond should deal with a pond of around 20 times, if not 25 times the size of this tank, with a huge amount more fish in it. But we can really see the water clarity is absolutely superb. Huge amount of aeration going into the water to keep oxygen levels high, and the fish are just consuming a little bit of granular feed that we added to this tank. Now there are fish from Nissai 2-year-old all the way up to older fish at Yonsai and even Rokusai, which are 5 to 6-year-old fish, and these have been kept by this breeder, grown on by him, and a few of them I believe were imported a long time ago. There are some real standout fish, and after this underwater video I'm actually going to be bowling up a few really special fish, and we're actually going to be looking at them from the top view, having a close look at them and just seeing how well they appear and why they are good for the show scene. Now we're going to bowl up a few fish out of here, and you will see just how different they look from that top view. Now here is the first fish, and you will see those fish have gone from that sort of orange underwater look to a lovely red colour. Now these fish are definitely not orange. My Oranda are orange, and you can definitely get orange Ranchu, but these are red. These are so striking in colour. They are so vivid. That white skin is absolutely snow white. You'll see we've got a bit of ginrin in the scales, a little bit of sparkle in the scales as well, and the fish just have that real clear separation between those red and white scales. Now you may be asking, well, what makes a standard Ranchu and what makes a show winning Ranchu? Well, you'll see on these top view Ranchu they have more of a box shaped head. Now this head is more of like a buffalo style, I suppose you could say, and it is in that square shape. They have more of that boxy style face rather than a rounded face. You'll also notice they have a smooth back curve, and the curvature goes towards the peduncle and the end of the tail rather than the full body of the fish, if that makes sense. The fish are a little bit more flat on top, and you'll notice that they all have splayed tails. Now these tails should be nicely splayed to give the fish a nice swimming action and make sure there is no curling of the tail and there is no crossover as well. The fish should have a nice swimming pattern and they should swim gracefully throughout the water. Now, looking up close at the scales, you can see just about the skin quality and the fucarin or fucarin, that is often referred to as the skin quality in these fish, and they are just glistening with colour. We've got another 3 fish here as well. You can see they have that similar body shape. This one here has an absolutely fabulous split between the tail. Really nice open splayed tail. The tail sits nicely in the water and it is not too high, but it is also not at that 90-degree angle as well. Generally, we want to have around a 45-degree angle between the tail and the peduncle. We've obviously got that nice box-shaped wen. We have that nice curvature through the spine. And the fish isn't too fat and round, as you may notice in more of a Thai or Chinese style Ranchu. The fish are slightly more elongated. They don't quite have the same round bellies, and they're a little bit more streamlined. But that is the end of this footage here. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing these absolutely stunning fish, and I'm just going to wrap up the video here. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Really hope you enjoyed seeing the different Ranchu, the underwater videos, and in the next episode we are actually potentially going to be purchasing a couple of those fish. So as you saw the indoor fish house in today's video, in the next video we're actually going to be looking at the outdoor Top View Ranchu pond, which is much bigger than my pond that I have outside, and we're potentially going to be selecting a couple of fish. I'm also going to be going with a friend who's hopefully going to be selecting a few fish as well, so you will have to find out what we choose, or if we even choose anything in the next episode. If you do have any questions, please leave them down below in that comment section. And if you do want your tank featured on the channel, either in a Rate My Tank episode or a Tank Tours episode, please just leave a comment down below. So that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.